FBI is now putting out intelligence alerts that there could be homegrown terror that could erupt within the United States of America. And this is the Hamas attack that could inspire terror in the USA as well. Many terror organizations have threatened a US attack too. There are threats that they have been able to perceive with regard to, and those threats have increased since the start of this war. Hamas terror, of course, remains the biggest threat to USA after ISIS because USA has extended support to Israel. Gaurav Sawant on that big story. Gaurav, USA knows fairly well about the jihadist threat, and specifically with 9/11 that they have faced over the years that they have been facing as well, and they fully realize that there could be this angle. I'll come to you in just a short while. Let's listen into one of the reactions coming in of US officials, and then we'll take Gaurav's perspective on that.
The horrific terrorist attacks committed by Hamas against innocent people in Israel a few weeks ago, we've been working around the clock to support our partners there and to protect Americans here at home. We assess that the actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration, the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate several years ago. In just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West. Al-Qaeda issued its most specific call to attack the United States in the last 5 years. ISIS urged its followers to target Jewish communities in the United States and Europe. Hezbollah has publicly expressed its support for Hamas and threatened to attack U.S. interests in the Middle East. And we've seen an increase in attacks on U.S. military bases overseas carried out by militia groups backed by Iran.
Yes, Gaurav. So on that for you, because this is clearly USA accepting that there could be something brewing within America too, and they want to ensure that it does not escalate. How does one look at this specific threat that FBI itself is directly giving out?
The FBI director giving out details of homegrown terror and telltale terror attacks in the United States of America is a cause for considerable alarm. Even post 9/11, there have been multiple terror strikes, or one that has successfully been stopped by the United States agencies, two, some that partially were successful. For example, you'd recall a Pakistan Air Force Air Vice Marshal's son had planted improvised explosive devices at the Times Square in New York, and he was fortunately arrested before the bombs went off. But people who are highly educated, live in the United States of America, but owe their their loyalty to a terror ideology. That's America's biggest concern at this point of time, as it is of several European countries, and that is why intelligence agencies are working round the clock to keep an eye on such elements. But even these elements are now almost a step ahead of intelligence agencies not communicating through open telephone calls, using encrypted signals. You're talking on chat rooms of various games, video game centers. All of that is a cause for considerable alarm at this time, as the world very, very clearly gets divided, unfortunately, on religious lines in Israel's war on Hamas terror.
Gaurav Sawant on the latest on that. Gaurav, I appreciate you giving us perspective on these different angles that are surfacing. Remember, it's not just about Israel-Hamas war. It's got the Western world engulfed too. And while the Middle Eastern nations are also threatening if this escalates, Yemen already we know have taken a decision, but it's in US and UK. Could there be homegrown terror that could become a concern for these nations? Thank you so much for now. Gaurav Sawant on the latest.